My name is Claire. I'm a writer-contributor For the Punks. If you don't know, For the Punks is a music and arts publication helping fans and creators connect, learn, and grow. I'm here today with April Bredael, tour manager, music just influencer. I don't know what you want to call her. She does it all. So April, I am so excited to have you here just on a friendship basis as well. April and I have met in person and we spent some time catching up, and it's really great to get to know other friendly people in the music industry. So April, I would love if you could just give kind of an overview of yourself, maybe your path in the music industry.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was not expecting such a baller intro. That's fantastic.
Thank you, even though I stuttered a
Yeah.
little, but it's okay.
I don't really know what I would call my job title either, because I feel like I'm doing a lot of things. So I kind of just have a whole laundry list of things in a way. But right now, what I'm most excited about is I'm working for Warner Music U. I'm our UW Madison rep. I also just recently founded a music magazine called COLOURVISION that I'm super, super excited about. Yeah, I just got off my first tour in January. I got to meet Claire. It was wonderful. And just doing a lot of things. I'm still in school. I'm 20 years old. I'm a junior at the University of Wisconsin studying journalism. So I have one more year and one semester, and then really excited to just dive in and hopefully make it. That would be optimal.
I mean, I feel like you're already on that path just because, and it is so hard to intro you because you do so much in the industry. You really just throw yourself in, and I've always really appreciated that about you even before I met you. Is there a specific moment that stands out to you in deciding your career path? A moment maybe where you said, like, this is what I have to do with my life?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. So growing up, I grew up in a really, really small town. It's technically not even a town. It's considered a village. Like, it's that small. And it was very much like sports. And I very much was not good at sports. I did them so that I would have friends, but I was very bad. I tried my best. It was not great. And it was really hard because I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to spend my time going to concerts and listening to music. And it was really frustrating because no one else was like that. So I would be like 16-year-old me begging my mom to drive me 3 hours to a show. It was not a yes most of the time, but I tried my best. And I really didn't know it was a career path for the longest time until now Warner Records signed artist Max had actually DM'd me on Twitter. He was like, hey, I've noticed you've been tweeting at me a lot, tweeting at radio stations to play my music, which I did because I just wanted to hear it on the radio. I had no higher interest in this. And he said he was forming a street team and asked me to represent Wisconsin. So I immediately was like, yes, oh my God, my favorite artist is in my DMs right now. What is happening? And so I worked on that team. I'm actually still with them, but I did a lot of that in high school. And as I started doing that a lot more, I kind of had this realization. I was like, oh, this is a job. People have to do this. That it just never dawned on me before, because growing up, if you were going into business, you were taking over the family company. You weren't going into the music industry. I didn't even know what that was. And then upon going to college a couple years later, I was able to start a ton of different things. Wisconsin does not offer very much music industry wise. So most of the things I kind of did on my own. I would just make opportunities whenever I could and hope for the best. Sometimes they worked out, sometimes they did not. But yeah, it was a lot of just full sending. Does that answer your question? I'm kind of rambling.
Yeah, no, it definitely answers my question. And it actually segues wonderfully into my next question, which you talk about making opportunities for yourself. You recently came off of your first tour that you tour managed, Lonely Together with Ethan Jewell and Meg Krell. What was the preparation like ahead of this tour?
Oh my gosh. So this is always so fun to explain to people, because most tour managers just go on tour. You have a whole separate agent that books the tour and does everything else. This tour was very much not like that. I did everything. So we started in August-ish. I had messaged Ethan. I was like, hey, I know you were kind of interested in touring last time we talked. Is this something you're still interested in? And he said yes. And so it was three of us, and I was our team per se, like the only non-artist. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I read a couple books, I read some articles online, and I decided that I was going to book this tour. And so I reached out to a ton of venues, probably like 600-ish. Formed by emails, got some responses somehow, learned how to negotiate, and just kind of full send. It's a lot of like faking the confidence. Like I tried to remind myself that these talent buyers I was emailing did not know that I'm a 20-year-old girl from Wisconsin. Like they just saw my name, and half the time they would answer their emails by saying hi Ethan, even though my name was in the signature. So I was like, you know what, low pressure here. So I booked the shows. We ended up having 14 cities. And yeah, I mean, preparation after that, we had a really cool launch. We actually had Ethan fake leak the album. And so what we did was we had him post about the album on release day and then post the tour graphic. And of course, everyone's like losing their mind because we weren't even hinting at it. Like we didn't tell anyone. And then like 2 hours later, we had a post on TikTok being like, oh my God, guys, my tour manager is so mad at me. I leaked the tour. And like, I called him a bunch of times and he got like a nice little screen recording of that. And it's just me like with like 30 missed calls. And so we had him post that. It did really well, which is what we were expecting. And so kind of, it was so fun just coming up with the marketing strategies and stuff like that. And then, you know, we had to get tickets going and everything for that day, which was a whole like chaos in itself. Ticketing is a lot harder than you would think, but we figured it out. And then I also booked local support and took care of all the finances and everything on their own. But yeah, it was a lot to do while being in school full time and working and teaching. So that was a lot, but it was worth it. January was really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just so amazing that there, I think, are so many people out there that would say like, I would love to do this, but I don't know how. Whereas you said, I don't know how to do this and I'm going to figure it out. And then you did, and you had a successful tour, and, you know, you guys went to so many cities and met so many fans and, you know, connected other people as well, which is just so amazing. So kudos to that. That was a really amazing achievement.
Yeah,
sure.
I think the coolest part was definitely seeing the fans. Just because that was me when I was 16. Like I was camping out in front of the venue. I was showing up super early. I was crying my eyes out meeting the artists. Like, and just being able to watch that on the other end and knowing that I was a part of making that happen and that it wouldn't have happened without me was just very, very much like heartwarming. And also his fans are so dedicated. So many of them knew who I was. They would come up to the merch table and just be like, hey, April, like, oh my God, do I know you? Like, am I forgetting your name? And it was so cute. And a bunch of them still follow me on TikTok and hype me up all the time. They're adorable. And so, yeah, like that was my favorite by far, was just seeing that. It's so full circle, seeing it on the other end. Like it's once you like get a taste of that, you're just like, this is, things are happening. Like that's probably another moment that I realized like this is, I need to do this.
What do you think makes a good tour manager?
I think you need to be ambitious and out of the box, and also adaptable. A lot of things go wrong on tour and you have to fix it. It's kind of on you. Our car broke down in Boston and we spent the rest of the tour in a rental car. So that was a thing. I honestly also just think you need to be open-minded and like open to things. And you got to be confident also, but there's so many people that have the capabilities of doing this. They just don't, because like you were saying, they don't know how to find these opportunities. And I think a lot of the times women in particularly, and non-men, think this way because they doubt themselves. They don't have that confidence. Whereas like a cis white man is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyways. And that's why you see the majority of tour managers being middle-aged white guys. Nothing against them. Most of them are great. I've met a couple bad ones, but for the most part, they're great. But in addition to that, I would love to see some young women, some non-binary folks, and people of color. And I just think that's so important. And I think a lot of people have recognized that just from my content. Like I've had so many people reach out that are like, I didn't know you could do this as a 20-year-old. And I was like, I didn't either, but you just, you got to go for it. And I've had a lot of artists reach out too that were like, everyone I've talked to has been exactly the same. You're the first person I've talked to that's been like, first of all, young, second of all, a woman. Like it's just, it's so different. And so I think just having that confidence and empowering yourself to go for it is the most important, because unless you do that, you're not going to get those opportunities.
Absolutely. And can you, obviously every day is very different, but for those who are watching that are interested in touring, which I think there is a lot of, based on, you know, especially things that you've said, so many people reach out to you and say, didn't realize I could do this. I think there is a lot of people out there that want to tour. Can you talk about a typical day on tour, especially with what you were doing on a smaller scale tour?
Yeah, so a typical day, we would wake up absolutely exhausted. Usually we would get to our hotels at like 4:30 a.m. if we were staying in a hotel. Other times it was people's floors. But I'll talk about it from a hotel because it's a little bit nicer. So we would get there at 4:30 a.m. I would check us in. I would talk to the hotel staff and beg them for a late checkout. And then we would go to bed immediately. There's a couple times I went to the gym like when we got there. I don't know what got into me, but we'd go to bed. We'd wake up around like 11. We would utilize that late checkout, take our time a little bit, and then we would drive a couple hours to whatever city that we were going to. We'd usually stop and get some lunch, maybe walk around, see some different towns. I would get a coffee first thing because that was most important. And then it was time to pack the car, which is always the best part. We had vacuum bags for merch because the tote bins did not fit in the car. And we also had a vacuum that we bought from Walmart because the little portable mini vacuum that came with the bags was not strong enough to suction them as small as we needed them to be. So we had a little $60 like full size Walmart vacuum that traveled with us. It was kind of comical looking back at it. But yeah, so we'd drive to the venue. We'd get there. I would go in right away and introduce myself, meet whoever the front of house was, whoever the like box office people were, talk to the staff a little bit. We would load everything in. I would usually help them get their instruments and stuff in first so that they could start sound checking. And then I would get my merch in. I would just kind of throw it in the corner and then go park the car and walk back. I mean, yeah, also just like basic things like we covered the car windows. There wasn't really anything in there, but you know, you don't want the car getting broken into. We had the most obnoxious window covers. It was so funny. But yeah, then I would go in, I would set up merch. I would usually I had a lot of people come out that I was friends with that would help me with merch, literally just because they wanted to see me. And that was super, super cool. Yeah, I would get merch set up and then I would sometimes go watch sound check, have some dinner, just chill for a little bit. I really liked talking to a lot of the fans. Sometimes I would just go like vibe with the line because a lot of them like they would see me and just assume that I was a fan, which would make sense. Like I fit the exact demographic. I mean, like sad young girl, but I would talk with them a lot. And then yeah, then it was showtime. It was wonderful. We had a local support every night, which was super, super cool. We got to see so many talented people across so many cities. It was incredible. After that, we'd have our opener, and then we would have Ethan. Incredible. Just watching, I think I watched the fans more than I watched him because their reactions was just like, I watched this show every night and I think I cried at every single show, but like just putting myself in their shoes and pretending like I only got to see this once, like they were losing their mind and I would have too if I only saw it once. I still did and I saw it multiple times, but yeah, super, super cool. They would do the show. We would do a little meet and greet after. So he would go to the merch table. I would sell merch. People would take pictures. I took a lot of pictures. That was another role that I did. Yeah, and then people would leave. We would get everything packed up. We would load up to the car, and then we would usually drive a couple hours before, like, crashing somewhere. So it was a lot of driving, like before and after. But after the show, you'd be kind of hyped up already, so it wasn't too bad. We'd usually try to get food, but we realized really quickly on that the only places open after a show are McDonald's and 7-Eleven gas stations. So we had like 5 days of McDonald's in a row before we were like, oh, we should probably start just like stocking up on food in the car. So yeah, we did that. We would get to the hotel and then we would pass out, or sometimes I would go to the gym. That was, I mean, every day is chaotic. That's a day where nothing went wrong. But there's a lot of times where things happen and you just have to be adaptable and know that it's fine. It's literally not the end of the world.
Do you have any examples of that you want to give just as a learning experience?
Yeah, when the car broke down, that was a little rough. Our main issue with that was, so it stopped working. I mean, it still like was drivable, but like every time you shifted it, it would just make this horrid noise like you were trying to drive and park or something like that. And so we called AAA, they came out and they were like, we can't do anything with it. It has to go to the like manufacturer place. So we're like, oh gosh. And it needed to get towed. But the only issue was we had nowhere to tow it to because we were in Boston. The place like was closed and so they couldn't tow it until the next day. But we were supposed to be in Philly the next day. So that was a little bit of a struggle. We ended up parking it on a random street in Boston and just like leaving the keys under the tires, and the tow truck came and got it the next day. And we had our rental car. That was something that went wrong. Another thing that went wrong, our vacuum seal bags broke one night. And so we just had to kind of throw the merch in the car, and it was really embarrassing. We like got to this hotel. We had all the stuff. We took over the entire hotel lobby, just like folding and sorting and putting it in the new vacuum bags. And then and I walk with our giant vacuum, like the hotel staff were probably so confused. But just like not taking yourself too seriously, like it's not the end of the world. You can resolve it. Like it's merch, like it's important, but it's not that important, like you just have to be chill and go with the flow and like know that things come up and that's normal and it's okay.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything that you experienced that was kind of a difference between your expectation and the reality of going on tour? Maybe something that you thought was going to be a certain way and then you actually got on the road and it wasn't exactly what you expected?
Yeah, so it's really hard to explain. You like simultaneously have so much time, but also no time. So I was like, oh, like I'll have so much time to get head out of school and do all this stuff with like all this time in the car. And like you do have a lot of time in the car, but most of the time when you're in the car and you're not driving, you're sleeping because you're exhausted. Either that or you're just so squashed that you don't even have room for a laptop. So that was definitely something. And it just felt like there was no time. But then at the same time, like in that other dimension, like you feel like you're sitting in the car for 8 hours and you're like, I just want to get out and do something. So that was definitely like a huge dichotomy that I experienced that I know doesn't really make sense. You have to kind of live it to like understand it, I guess. But yeah, that really surprised me.
Mm-hmm. And
also the lack of water bottle like refill things. We went through so many plastic water bottles, and I like started tour with like my hydro flask. I was like, I'm just gonna fill it up all the time. And then I quickly realized most gas stations don't have like just a thing that you can fill up your water bottle, and a lot of hotels didn't either, and neither did the venues. So it was kind of a struggle. Like that was just something random. Eventually I just bought like a little like gallon thing of water and I'd refill it with that, but a weird thing.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of little things like that it's like, like your typical comforts, and it's like, oh, I actually can't have this because I'm living in a van for a month, and it's like something that takes you a second to realize.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Mm-hmm. So final question, what's next for April?
Gosh, well, I'm currently in the middle of my semester, so finishing this semester, I'm hoping to get an internship this summer. I would love to work for a label, but obviously nothing is guaranteed. So we're in the process, but I'm hoping to have good news on that. Ideally, I would love to move to New York City this summer or Los Angeles. I'm not too picky. I know a lot of people in both. So I'm really hoping that that works out. I'm hoping we can hang out all the time and get coffee because I'll be in New York.
Mm-hmm. You better come to New York. LA is fine, but come on, New York City, it's where it's at.
We will see. So that's short term. Long term, I'll graduate college May 2023. I would love to tour again before graduation. And yeah, I mean, after graduation, I definitely am dead set on working in the industry. I'm not sure yet in what capacity, but I'm just trying to take my time. Like sometimes it hits me like I'm pretty young. Most of the people I'm friends with are a lot older than me. So it's always so weird when they're like talking about like their jobs and everything. And then they're like, you're in school? And I'm like, yeah, I still have 3 semesters. And so that's always a fun conversation. But yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of going with the flow, doing what works, making opportunities, doing things, going to shows. But yeah, it's a really good time.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining me today. It seems like it's working out for you just fine. Do you want to plug any socials? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on all socials. I am April Bredael. Um, Bredael. I know that's a struggle. If you look up I am April, it usually comes up. But that's all my social media: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, everything. I post a lot of like music industry, like activism type stuff. I call out a lot of people for being uninclusive, not people, but like brands and stuff. So definitely follow there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great. Well, thank you so much.